Now, from the Columbia Basin, your local news source, this is iFIBER 1 News, presented in high definition. The #1 source for real-time local news, local sports headlines, and our very own Weather Center forecast covering the entire Columbia Basin. With your iFIBER 1 News team, reporting news in real time as it's happening. From the iFIBER Communications HD broadcast studio in Ephrata, Washington, this is iFIBER 1 News, and it starts now.
Welcome to iFIBER 1 News. I'm Alan Troop reporting news from around the Columbia Basin for Tuesday, October 1st. Tonight, we report on how an inmate at the Grant County Jail hurt herself and how volunteers in Moses Lake generated a ton of food for the food bank. In sports, Bob Kirkpatrick reports on the Ephrata Tigers and Moses Lake soccer. Our spotlight story tonight is about the new work being done on the Columbia Basin Hospital in Ephrata. And we have the latest weather forecast for the Columbia Basin from the iFIBER 1 Weather Center. Our top story tonight, a woman was seriously injured after an apparent attempt to commit suicide inside the Grant County Jail yesterday afternoon. Tina Mondalis, a 47-year-old Moses Lake woman, was flown to Harborview Medical Center in Seattle this morning to receive surgery for her injuries. She was booked into jail on September 28th for theft of a motor vehicle. The jail surveillance video was reviewed by the sheriff's office, and investigators determined she tried to hang herself using a jail-issued jumpsuit tied to the second-floor railing. Sheriff's office spokesman Kyle Foreman said another inmate noticed what Mondalis was doing and rushed to stop her. Video shows that before the other inmate could reach her, Mondalis appears to deliberately throw herself over the railing and fall to the concrete floor below. Mondalis was provided first aid by jail staff before she was taken by ambulance to Columbia Basin Hospital. Sheriff Tom Jones said incidents resulting in serious injury rarely happen in the Grant County Jail. Nonetheless, this is a tragic incident, and we all hope for Mrs. Mondalis' recovery. In Moses Lake, volunteers and donated materials helped generate a ton of food for the Moses Lake Food Bank. Reporter Jeff Chu reports on how this happened.
This Moses Lake neighborhood garden grew at least a ton of produce in its first season thanks to donations and volunteer labor. The fresh-picked vegetables were then all donated to the Moses Lake Food Bank. It is the main effort of Community Services of Moses Lake and its Harvest Against Hunger program. Don Key, a Moses Lake volunteer who helps the needy, donated the lot for the Giving Garden next to his home on West Basin Street.
It's a real community effort besides all the community service workers and certain organizations that have come time and again. Everything here, almost virtually everything here, has been donated.
Jenny Roberts, AmeriCorps Vista Harvest Against Hunger coordinator for Community Services of Moses Lake, teamed up with Key. Together, they built the garden with lots of volunteers, including master gardeners.
There's a huge need. We live in a very agricultural area, but a lot of it is very big ag, and it is corn and potatoes and onions. That doesn't leave a whole lot of variety. So this has provided a lot more. Like, we got kale into the food bank this year. Different things that aren't necessarily usually available to the food bank clients.
Key and Roberts say the garden will grow some, but it is one of several others benefiting needy families around Moses Lake. Donations of compost came from Royal Organics in Royal City, and the drip irrigation system kept the water bill down.
My cost for this is basically just water, and I think my highest month this summer was $20. So that's a pretty good return on investment. I think a ton for $60 maybe throughout the summer.
Such giving gardens began more than 5 years ago when Habitat for Humanity of Moses Lake bought lots around the city to use for giving gardens. The gardens provide a wide variety of vegetables for the food bank.
Tomatoes, watermelon, corn, a few different varieties of beans.
Key said his volunteer efforts for Harvest Against Hunger and as a board member of Habitat for Humanity of Moses Lake come from a personal place in his past. He needed help when he first came to Moses Lake in the early 1990s.
I didn't have a stable place to live, didn't have a job, and I used the food bank. And I was a recent college graduate. And there have been a number of displaced homemakers, people who have lost their jobs, come upon hard times in the last few years. And the food bank, Community Services of Moses Lake, they fill that need, but there's a great demand for fresh produce.
I'm Jeff Chu for iFIBER 1 News.
Thank you, Jeff. The hearing to decide whether Nathan Brooks will be tried as an adult was delayed an 8th time. Defense attorney Lillian Couture and Deputy Prosecutor Stephen Johnson told the judge that one defense expert still needed to finish a report before they could proceed to the 2-day hearing, and the next hearing was set for October 28th. Brooks is charged with 2 counts of attempted murder in the first degree for allegedly trying to shoot his parents while they were sleeping in their home on March 8th. During the hearing, the judge heard an argument about whether the 14-year-old should be allowed to appear during the hearing without handcuffs and shackles. Couture filed a motion claiming it could cause potential jurors to view Brooks poorly. She referred to people watching television news reports about Brooks on iFIBER 1 News, who have been the sole television news coverage of the case. The prosecutor argued against the motion, saying Couture didn't offer a reason to try Brooks any differently than other people charged with similar crimes. The judge said he would issue a ruling later this week in response to the motion. For more information on the motion and the case, visit us online at ifiber1.com/news. And each of the people you see here has warrants for their arrest and is wanted by various law enforcement agencies. If you see any of these people, the DOC asks that you not attempt to detain or apprehend them, but to call police. You can also call the Department of Corrections at 509-764-6180 during the day, or 509-762-1160 after 5 p.m. And we will be right back after these messages with our latest from the iFIBER 1 Weather Center, sports, and more news.